Здравствуйте, уважаемые коллеги, друзья Международного экологического
Colleagues, friends of the Ecological Festival Save and Preserve. We're happy to welcome you in the studio of TV company Ugoria. Our festival has turned 26 this year. A whole generation has grown up on it, and it carries its high standard as an international platform for advocacy of environmentalism. We'll talk about journalism, ecological journalism, and green cinema, about green agenda and tools that it uses, the difficulties TV programs are done. When they're done, the journalist is modeling it, but how, in which way, and is the journalist successful in doing that?
Огромная планета.
Planet.
Нас здесь 7,5 миллиардов.
7.5 billion of people. And we're not alone. Even a tiny drop of water has a lot inside. Life reigns everywhere, and it's very diverse. And we're responsible for that, not to ourselves, but to our future. Our world is huge and small at the same time.
И нам нужно вспомнить.
And we need to recall that. We're not trying to turn time back. We're living in the present, and it's not late to save the world from ecological catastrophe, and we are acting. Our videos, investigations, stories, cartoons, and full-length films for adults have the same goal: to enlighten, to create an image of a better future. We're not alone. We remember that our world is huge and small at the same time. Our guests today are Elena Shumakova, Director of the Department of International and Public Relations and Youth Policy of the Ugra region, Mikhail Taki, the editor of Russia 24 channel, member of the jury, also one more member of the jury, Anton Wojciechowski. Hello everyone. Online we have Svetlana Bik, expert analytical platform infrastructure and finance for sustainable development. She's also a journalist by vocation, and Irina Zhochkina, chairperson of the regional branch in Mordovia of the Russian Ecological Society, will be also joined by Elena Belitskaya, chairperson of the regional branch of Ecological Society of Rostov region, chairman of the director of the international contest, Svetlana Vasilyeva. Everyone, I am happy to greet everyone from our studio. Let's work. We'll start from today's trends and ecological policies of our state, the green agenda in our state, new conceptual approaches in the system of ESG. I've just been informed that Svetlana Bik has sent us a video. Let's see the first video from Svetlana. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear friends. I'm happy to welcome, to greet all of the participants and guests in Khanty-Mansiysk, participants on the Save and Preserve Festival. In addition to looking at achievements of individual journalists and studios, the festival with such a name is aimed at not just preserving the environment for future generations, it calls on saving today's environment, calling for concrete actions to be done by the state and every one of us. And it's very well connected with the notion of the world in the broadest sense of this word. I am sure that saving and preserving of environment is the preserving, the saving of humanity. And in this context, the ESG abbreviation, environment, social and governance, is very well fit for the goals of responsible journalism, responsible governance. In today's world, the ESG topic is very high on the agenda. In addition, it's become a central linchpin for many networks, including social networks. ESG has a very important role for the international discourse. Why is that so? Because we have to talk about whether or not we'll save, in the context of instability, the social and ecological priorities in our economic activities. You will agree that in the context of the greatest crisis, it's easy to turn away from modernizing an outdated technological solution or purification line. We'll have to discern between the necessary changes because the bets are very high. Sometimes our contractors fail us and we have to break away from such contractors who cite crisis as a reason. And the biggest companies have many times publicly declared that the ESG agenda has become part of the DNA of their companies, and they're not going to drop those goals, but in practice, part of the ecological programs and projects will have to be stalled, to be suspended. It's important to avoid a situation when the temporary suspension of such programs should not become something permanent. We need to immerse professionally into the ideology of ESG, into its analytics, and the system of preserving priorities. From professional point of view, the immersion into ESG will become a very powerful advantage for any journalist, because this agenda will not go away. It will transform because it's very much demanded, and the demand will continue growing. That's why I suggest that the organizers of the festival to organize a special track for journalist works, where they use the ESG approach, and in all of these three areas, ecology, social and governance, and I am ready to help you in bringing together the best experts from across Russia. I wish you every success. I wish every success to your festival and all your endeavors. Thank you, Svetlana.
Для экологической журналистики, справедливо считает Светлана, действительно настало время еще такого более профессионального погружения в идеологию и практику ESG, и аналитику, экспертизу сложных процессов социальной корпоративной экологической ответственности. Все должно быть нацелено на то, чтобы общими усилиями сохранить наш хрупкий мир, истерзанный за последние 150 лет, сохранить для будущих поколений. Ведь это одна из основных целей концепции устойчивого развития нашего мира. А сегодня уделяется ли достаточно внимания экологической проблематике на телевидении, муниципальных телекомпаниях, федеральных каналах? Предлагаю посмотреть вот для начала нашей дискуссии фрагмент конкурсной программы «Важные вещи» журналиста из Волгограда Полины Новиковой.
Ежегодно в России скапливается более 1 миллиона тонн изношенных автомобильных шин. Куда они деваются? Абсолютное большинство заполняет мусорные полигоны и несанкционированные свалки. Небольшая часть отправляется на клумбы в качестве весьма сомнительного украшения. И еще меньше добирается до предприятий по утилизации. Покрышки самых разных размеров, резанные и целиком. Резиновые трубки, шланги и ковры, пневмобаллоны, обрезки от конвейерных лент. Все это отправляется в дробильное устройство, чтобы в конце пути превратиться в крошку. Шинный регенерат используется как замена дорогого и энергозатратного каучука в качестве компонента резиновых смесей в производстве самых разных резинотехнических изделий. Резиновую крошку применяют для строительства детских и спортивных площадок, теннисных кортов и футбольных полей. Все это может получаться из покрышек и шлангов, которые сейчас бесхозно валяются просто везде.
Ну вот давайте все-таки начнем нашу дискуссию здесь в студии. Антон, вот как ты считаешь, каков процент экологической информации на федеральных экранах? И вот мы видим, что в ряде конкурсных работ мы видели, что люди все-таки обращаются к теме переработки отходов, да, журналисты наши, конкурсанты. Как ты считаешь, специализированная вот эта журналистика, она имеет место быть на экранах?
Светлана, я думаю, что вот есть какие-то вечные темы на телевизоре, да, и экология, безусловно, это вечная тема, она никуда не уйдет, и она всегда будет. Что касается процентов, мне кажется, это не совсем то, о чем вот действительно нужно заботиться. Заботиться нужно о качестве этих процентов, а не о количестве. Ну, будет, допустим, 100% экологического, значит, на нашем телевидении, а его никто не смотреть не будет. Ну и куда эти 100% можно записать? Только лишь какие-то бумажки кому-то показать, вот у нас 100%. Это либо смотрят, либо не смотрят. Так что мне кажется, что если сделано интересно, то даже если это будет 1%, этот 1% посмотрит большое количество народа.
Ну вот как раз давай тогда к этому интересу, к этим инструментам, которыми владеют наши журналисты или не владеют, давай к ним как раз обратимся. У нас было очень много конкурсных работ, которые были похожи вот одна на другую и, собственно, не застряли на чем-то таком интерес, да, на чем-то особенном. Вот, например, Полейный репортаж. Мне он понравился тем, что в нем есть какая-то изюминка, но довела ли она свою идею до конца и прослеживается ли эта идея экологического журналиста, она в этой теме развивается уже давно, я просто знаю, она в нескольких фестивалях уже участвовала. Так вот, насколько она смогла заинтересовать граждан, наше общество, да, вот этой темой переработка отходов, как она ее подала?
Ну вот есть американский кинематограф, там есть фильмы ужасы, комедии и какие-нибудь, не знаю, там боевики. Вот кто-то любит боевики, а кто-то любит комедии. Но в любом случае, если он пойдет либо на то, либо на другое, как минимум он может ожидать то, что это сделано действительно здорово, на высшем уровне. Вот, ну, мне кажется, общий уровень достаточно такой, ну, низковатый. Я бы вот на этом сконцентрировал особое внимание. В конце концов, смыслы, про которые говорят люди, в том числе экологические, они не меняются. Они вечны, они никуда не уйдут. Меняются только вот эти обертки, оболочки, в которые эти смыслы запаковываются. И на это стоит обращать особое внимание, потому что зритель сейчас – это не тот, который зритель 5 лет назад, прости господи, не тот, который будет через 10 лет назад. И нужно быть все время на неком острие, на высоте для того, чтобы этого зрителя запросы эти удовлетворять. Зритель, он уйдет, если ему не будет интересно. Что, собственно говоря, он очень часто и делает.
Ну, давайте тогда вот обсудим тему в условиях дефицита финансирования на обычных там компаниях, ну, где действительно нет возможности сделать очень быстро и качественно графику, которая способна принести вот этот интерес, да, то есть как-то улучшить там картинку, ее модернизировать, что ли, я не знаю, как-то привлечь внимание, там, включить какие-то элементы.
Мне просто не кажется, что вопрос в деньгах. Вот дайте нам денег, мы сделаем современно. Нет, вы хотите сделать современно или вы не хотите сделать современно? Вы ставите себе задачу какую? Сделать, как вы сказали, определенное количество процентов вот экологических репортажей, или вы ставите себе задачу сделать репортажи так, чтобы их посмотрели даже мои, там, не знаю, сверстники. Вот тогда это правильная постановка вопроса. Все остальное, оно уже каким-то невероятным образом находится под задачу. На самом-то деле многие современные инструменты, которые, например, там, часто используются в хороших работах, их можно делать банально на вот сотовый телефон. Но даже в тех работах, которых я видел, часто этих элементов, которые можно делать на сотовый телефон, я не находил. Что печально.
Хорошо. Насколько влияет вот еще такой момент, что нехватка времени? То есть
I've seen good videos can be shot with the help of
сегодня он был на медленной фабрике, завтра он приехал
their
на
phone.
какую-то
Well,
экологическую проблематику.
there are journalists and journalists. For example, today the journalist works with on the furniture factory, and tomorrow he has to work on something else. And in the evening, he already has to submit his work. Well, yes, I think that journalism as a profession makes the task a bit easier. I have been working in the news for 10 years or even 11 years, and I didn't dive deep into any topic. I was just switching from one to a different one, and only when I switched to the scientific issues, I became an expert of these issues. I think that the journalists should try and nip on different topics. Well, we cannot say that journalists do not try hard because they put all their heart and soul in what they're doing, because we see they're really interested in what they're doing as journalists and as citizens. Well, simply speaking, if we create a video or want to paint a picture, there are two main points, two main questions: what you want and what you can. And I cannot understand how we can measure these two factors. 15 years ago, it was pretty difficult to find information about the state of the environment and about the programs of the government, and one had to be an insider to find the information. There is an article on the Constitution, and it has been working for many years, but the whole thing got active and only recently. What can we do together? And are there any common points? And can the journalists work together with the government on the issues that should be talked about? Let's talk about the introduction of the young people into the ecological agenda. How effective are the traditional elements to create the green culture? Elena, over to you. To continue the topic that we have already begun discussing, there is information that can be touching or not touching, and I think that it shouldn't be imperative. Here, I like the work of Richard Tyler, the Nobel Prize winner. He says that the indirect effect is the best because it shows how we can create the right attitude to the healthy lifestyle and so on. And if we talk about the young people, we can see how the work with the grants are effective. Our government works with the non-commercial organizations and the media, and the green agenda is very often high on the submitted entries. Food sharing and marathons are very popular, and the content that has been created when people are taking part in different events are very effective. And we see that in our statistics, and we're trying to support these projects because people understand what the environment is about by doing something, by beginning begin with themselves. And I think that these tools are the most effective ones. The second point I would like to comment on is the connection between the creative industries and the sustainable development. I think there is a big potential and a big ground for work. We work with the St. Petersburg Local History Museum, an exhibition which has been also covered on the Arctic Council of the Russian Federation, and we will show there how the small peoples of the North and how the lifestyle and the harmony they live in plays an important role. And here in our region, this lifestyle has been going on for many centuries, and this is what we need today. And people who come to our region and when they understand and see how Khanty-Mansiysk and the indigenous peoples live, they understand that this is very important, and they see how the life will continue, how life will go on, in which way, and that we need these indigenous peoples. And here we should look with the help of the pictures, with the help of the art, to touch the hearts of many people, because this is how we motivate people for work. In August, there will be a forum in Khanty-Mansiysk devoted to the youth of the federal region, and under the auspices of this forum, there will be the SG agenda. We will talk about the sustainability, the rights and thoughtful consumption, because this is what is talked about, and we have a lot of entries to this forum. I think that we should avoid the imperatives and be very sincere and use creative industries and modern technologies for it to make it a cultural event, to penetrate the society and the minds of people. Do you think that all means are good, that the mass media and the government are using, the volunteer organization also using these tools? Do you think that we should do all it takes to involve people, the maximum number of people, young people and children, into this green thinking from the very beginning, from the very childhood? I think here to save and preserve is a very good example. It has been on for many 25 years on the territory of our okrug. And back in the time, we began with 23 activists, and today we're talking about 50 countries all over the world and hundreds of thousands of people. And the technologies we use are adapted by the other districts of our country. I think these indicators say something, because we've brought up the new generation of people who live in a different way, in a new way. I think that 23 people and 600 people, well, there is a big difference, and I think there is a good dynamics in these ecological indicators. At the very beginning, all the territory was endangered by the gas flaring. And today we are up to the international standards in this regard. The same can be said about the air pollution and the drop of waste into the oceans. This all says that there is a certain bridge. When a society takes an active part, government and business starts working on the environment too. I think this is, we're looking at the sustainable process already, and this is getting into the minds of people. We've paid attention to the fact that the city is very clean and cozy. It's very comfortable to live here. How it works in other regions, and how ecological agenda is broadcast on different channels, and whether the youth is involved, will be commented on by Irina Zhuchkina from Mordovia.
Добрый день, меня слышно?
Everyone, We are also happy to see you and to hear you. I'm happy to see all of you. Just a couple of words about the context of today's society development, the state of the economy. The question is very acute regarding the ecological safety. And in this regard, the actualization of ecological problems, these problems need to be high on the agenda. And we need to popularize, to put them high on the agenda. It's efficient tool today, generally for the ideological mechanism protecting the environment. We need to do more than just popularize the discovered ecological misdemeanors or the state of environment. We need to foster ecological responsible behavior among our citizens and ecological responsible behavior among the business entities. I will not go into legal details regarding the terms of ecological enlightenment, education, upbringing, culture. Thankfully, we do have them. We have the goals, the forms that we can use as a tool, but we need to understand that despite the fact that ecological education can be achieved through the use of different forms and means. Let's look at the preschool educational facilities. We see games, other activities. At general education schools, we have the different subjects of the curriculum. Ecology is not an obligatory subject on the curriculum, but children do study it at the universities. Students also study courses within legal law courses and a great variety of online and offline activities, interactive quests at various levels. But we need to understand that to involve the population en masse and to draw the population's attention to ecology, you can do it just like this. And the very important tool here is the mass media. On the one hand, it's a powerful source of strength, power, but at the same time, the information provided by mass media needs to be trustworthy, otherwise it will need its meaning. And here we'll need experts in the field of environment protection. In our region, for example, regional mass media, when they see an ecological problem, they actively involve experts in the field of environmental protection to explain and provide information. As a teacher at our Mordovia University, I keep asking my students the same question. Please raise your hand. Who of you sort the waste at home? And can you imagine that despite all this onslaught of information, just 10 to 15% respond that they do it at home, that they split the waste, that they sort the waste. They don't understand. They don't understand the next steps. What happens next to those sorted waste? And an interesting example in our republic, in our region, was when mass media made special videos, special stories about the waste sorting, how, why you need to do that. And it had an effect on the public, and this is one more mechanism that can be really used, and maybe the main mechanism is involving mass media into your projects, into your activities. and this will make the activities more interesting. Let's turn back to the tools and means that the journalists use, not just from the point of view of genres, but visual effects. We analyzed a lot of works, especially in the eco reports category, helped us make some conclusions, and they'll be voiced by Anton Wojciechowski. Let's see an extract of one of your films and then continue.
Лебединского ГОКа внесен в Книгу рекордов Гиннесса. Так что полная эвакуация из карьера персонала.
The full evacuation of personnel from the quarry, 450 tons. The rock is crushed here. Which three main symbols of metal being born? First, smelting, and smithing, and these processes are beautiful, and that is why it gets the whole attention. But actually the iron is being born here. It's extracted from the subsoil using the large-scale and complicated technology, beginning with mining and ending with enrichment combines. And everywhere you see the same: large scale, great machines, and a lot of work. It looks like even gold is easier to extract. Iron is a heavy metal, and not just because of its weight. A difficult metal. Beautiful work. You are an expert of this artful use of these visual effects that's out of the beaten path. Tell us how you arrived at this point, and you mostly focus on industry, and you know how to show it off to advantage, a lot of excavating machines and so on. I don't like the word master because I feel like a monument. And okay, I agree to be a master. The essence is, my understanding is that, first of all, what we're doing is audio-visual service to the population served at home. That's why I feel responsibility to make it interesting and pleasant. That's why throughout my career I've accumulated techniques, skills, something I have read and I looked up and saw other people doing it. Sometimes I succeed in doing things. Sometimes I catch the attention. I think that these tools are universal. When we talk about documentaries, I think it's strange when we cannot imagine making a documentary without the fancy computer techniques, and because the technologies make lives easy for the directors. And computer graphic is also helps to show off different topics, including ecological topics, and make them more interesting and more bright and more catching. You started specializing in a certain topic. I like very much to make films about industrial production. One of the reasons is that I think industrial production is the embodiment of human labor. Here we are people. We've been for quite a long time on this planet, and what we are doing is this and that. Some Hollywood films show that some gods descend onto the ground of the earth and give us the tools. What we need to see is the embodiment, the materialization. This chair has been made by humans, but the industrial production makes the ecological catastrophe closer to us. If we look at prehistoric times, people didn't even think about preserving environment. Nature, in the purest sense of the word, doesn't have any need to protect itself. Why we have industry? Because we don't want to live in the forest. We need comforts, we need enjoyments. That is why I think the ecology was developed from technology, but technology needs ecology, because if the ecological component doesn't bite it from time to time, the immunity is weakened and we start to destroy ourselves. So technology and ecology need to coexist. I think that I'm sure that there are no industrial production that doesn't hurt nature, but ecological norms, ecological trends help the industrial production to be better. We need to equate industry and ecology. Ecological problems require a lot of information, journalist investigations. It's not always you see the result of your labor to minimize the impact on the environment, and sometimes it takes decades to change the public perception of this problem. How can we motivate journalists to cover the ecological agenda? Mikhail, let's think together. What is the chain between society, business, and the government? What do we have in this triangle?
Let's begin to trace this chain. If earlier, if we're talking about business, it was a closed topic, semi-closed topic, and the government could just state the facts, or probably sometimes they could criticize businesses, or sometimes even impose different fines. But these fines were even less than the taxes that businesses contributed to the government and to the state. So this national project and the reinforcement of our state led to the fact that business got more responsible. And the tasks are different, and the environment is not something very insignificant that is discussed only some crazy people that state the obvious things. but everyone at the same time continued doing what they were doing. But Anton has already commented on it, that we have the gadgets and the progress to make our life more comfortable. Today, the environmental component should be introduced into the business management plans. Otherwise, the system won't work. We all remember what happened in Norilsk on the outskirts when the tanks leaked. And in one of our festivals, this question was already discussed. We discussed the ice melting and the soil destruction and the soil degradation at the places where it was always stable. And we saw that the business was fined greatly, and it was a showcase for everyone. Another example comes from Bashkiria, where the sodium extractors coming not from Bashkiria had a very successful business, and they had great benefits because they were robbing the state treasures, and also they were trying to destroy one of the mountains that had a very sacred meaning to the local people. Our government showed that it can deal with such cases. Do you think that businesses can also help the journalists to develop this topic? Because sometimes they are short of the money to create a series of videos or do some applied things, because all the graphics and all the means and tools are very expensive, and if you want to get a high quality video, businesses should also get involved. Do you think that businessmen are ready to get involved? And for example, Anton gives an incentives to businesses to turn to journalists, because businesses should see also journalists as experts and as an indispensable part of their work. Green journalism is probably one of the components of all this ecological agenda. And it's not just about the cleaning of the dumping sites or their rubbish selection, but as Anton has already mentioned, the main point here, the central point, is the production. Well, I just wanted to say that as for the video and the quality of the picture is not that important, it will not save the world, but I just wanted to show that we should do everything, we should keep up with time and do everything up to date in a modern way. But there is a number of threats in this regard as well. When we are talking about the environment, we should not forget about the technologies. We should not say just now it's going to be all green because we are going to push the bans on the sodium in Bashkiria, because it's not that easy. There are millions and millions of layers of the prehistoric organisms that create the sodium. But, my dear friends, sodium is also a component of a lot of different materials, for example, glass. If we don't have sodium, we won't have any glass. I'm not just saying that, okay, let's extract as much sodium as we can, but we should look at the problem in a complex way. We should look at every production in a modern way, saying that how we should benefit from this or that industrial site and preserve nature. We remember that this nickel also case that happened about 3 years ago. There was a site found where the nickel, the content of nickel was 3 times bigger than in the existing sites, but the community was against the extraction of the natural materials at these sites because we didn't have the technologies at that point. So it was put on pause. Let's look at this short video, which is called "Better and Worthier Than Gold." The song about life, about children and family and reindeer in Elbim. On her woman's place, she talks about the events history. There is about 1,000 people in the region. Taiga is their home and bear is almost their pet. They talk about their connection with the nature, with their predecessors. And she also talks about the preservation of what we get from nature. In the 70s of the last centuries in Okhotsk region, there was the golden site found. The extraction began in 2010. Before and after this, we all witnessed the ecological compromise because the indigenous peoples were also took into the equation. And the industries paid a lot of attention to the life of the indigenous peoples. Well, this is the teaser of the movie Worthier Than Gold. It is about the 70s of the last century, how in Khabarovsk region the golden site was found, and the extraction began only 2010. And this is a good example of the ecological compromise because the civilization and the industry were tuned to the routine of the indigenous peoples and not vice versa. I just wanted to ask how here businesses are at the cornerstone of the ecological agenda. In Khanty-Mansiysk, there is about 6% of all the oil extraction. We are the first in the production of the energy, and we take the second place on the production of gas. So therefore, the half of the territory is represented by the forests. Taiga, it's taiga. So this is our high priority. And our government worked out a number of mechanisms. For example, every year when we make a contract with the oil companies, we take into consideration the ecology. And it's not about the environmental protection initiatives, for example, the fish breeding and so on. We do a lot of other things. The companies pay a lot of respect to the environment and are actively taking part in all the initiatives. A big part of the territories is represented by the reserves, and there is also oil on those territories. Therefore, we talk to the indigenous peoples and we also coordinate all the activities with them. There are also the inspectors coming from the indigenous peoples that are responsible for the state of the forests and the nature itself, and they are actively involved into the dialogue. They do not give any way to the reckless use of natural resources. I just wanted to reiterate that our ecological telefest is supported by the oil production company, Lukoil. The company is interested that wants to raise awareness by the maximum number of people to turn to the problems. A lot of different movies are made about the indigenous people's lives and supported by Rosneft. I can proudly say that our Ugra business is responsible, ecological responsible, and they share our agenda. This is a great news, and we are happy about that. And I think that this example will be followed by many other companies. Do you know the number of the ecological festivals in our country? We've just found 7 of them. The most resilient one is this one, to save and preserve. And we want to congratulate the people of TV company Ugoria, the founders of this fest. I've been working with this festival as a participant and as a jury member from 2014, and I can say that there is this high standard has been maintained, and I can say that we receive a lot of different works and entries, and I wanted to call for participation to the festival Nizhny Novgorod, and we have already been receiving different entries. Do you think that, dear colleagues, do you think that there is a future for the ecological festivals? Well, I think yes, because the society is interested in that. I agree with the first speaker, yes. And I would like to comment a bit again that this year our festival has practiced something new. We've got the children's program and also workshops and volunteer activities where children can act as environmental volunteers and sometimes shoot a video and make a cartoon. And this program is very sought after. I think that this is a good indicator. Well, I understand that to raise awareness about this ecological agenda, we should use a lot of different tools. We all have and possess those tools, business, government, and the volunteers. To Save and Preserve Festival is one of those tools, because this is a great venue to promote the green agenda, and it has been there for over 25 years. We are modeling a better future. I wish you all the success and all the best.